Hi, my name is Bryan Krass. When I think back on growing up in my hometown, which is Clarksville, Tennessee, it's about 40 minutes northwest of Nashville, just south of the Kentucky border. Um, really, I think of, oh man, this is almost like a fat kid, but the first thing that comes to mind is Johnny's Big Burger, which was a greasy diner that my dad took me to a bunch as a kid. And as I got older, me and my friends got our driver's licenses. That was our haunt. Didn't matter if it was 2 in the afternoon, 2 a.m. That was the place to go. So Johnny's comes to mind. School comes to mind, but I'm pretty sure my first memory dates to my third birthday. So at that point in my life, I was still living in Downers Grove, Illinois, which is a western suburb of Chicago. And I remember a couple of things. I remember my parents, and again, this could all be from different days, but I remember, my parents went to a bicycle race. It was in a park. The park was attached to a military museum, so there was a playground next to a tank. I remember I came down a slide and I twisted my ankle. And then I remember a couple days later, it was my third birthday, and I remember there was a cake, and I remember there were two toys I remember getting. I got a little Matchbox dune buggy, and I also got a big, and this was the 80s, it was like 1985, so I got like a big toy fire truck, but it had a metal body, had a ladder that you could wind out. I mean, it was back when toys were substantial. That's my first memory. I like being outside. Like, video games were a thing I did after the sun went down. I couldn't be outside anymore. It didn't matter if I was outside riding a bicycle, if I was riding a dirt bike. When I was in fourth, fifth, sixth grade, seventh, eighth, up until the beginning of ninth grade, I was obsessed with the idea of building hiking trails. So after school, I would just go out into the woods with a machete and I would just try and hack these nice trails, and then I would go back with a rake and I would manicure them. I don't know why I felt compelled to do it, but I just did. Mostly walking. I did try making a mountain bike trail once, but it ended up being a really aggressive, really gnarly downhill course. And like even my dad and his friends who did a lot of mountain biking, are really good riders, they even were a little intimidated by it and found it was a little overly hard. If you've ever seen like footage of the stuff like in British Columbia around Kamloops, yeah, I tried doing something like that. It's really when I feel like my life got really good. I feel like as a teenager, my life finally got good, and I got a lot more friends. I remember, throwing parties in my house, and not like your typical high school parties, but like my friends would come over. We'd play paintball all night. We'd play GoldenEye all hours. Those are things I really remember. If I had a lesson for kids today, I could sum up in one word: unplug. And I would say that for two reasons. So, one is the experiences that you have virtually do not compare to experiences that you have that are real. So, I'm not even saying get outside. I'm not even going to go that far. If you're introverted and you would rather, let's say, do beginning woodworking, model trains, which I did. I was introverted. I was into model trains. Do that. Do something that you put your hands on. The other thing I would say is with unplugging, stop comparing yourself to everyone else. Because let me tell you a little secret. So I was on Facebook this morning, and all the people that I went to high school with, they were way more fit than me. Yeah, they're all fat like me now. So don't feel the need to compare yourself, because guess what? Everyone ends up in the same place more or less eventually. So my biggest challenge growing up was I got bullied a lot, and pretty much it got really bad in sixth grade. And in sixth grade, the only coping mechanism I had was I didn't really have one. I'll be perfectly honest. My life sucked. I switched schools after sixth grade. I moved out of the public school system and into a private school from there on out. And things got better in seventh and eighth grade. But that was probably my biggest challenge, was just, whether it was being, whether it was being chubby, or, I went to a very rural school and people didn't like the city kid. For whatever reason, people like to pick on me. And I think if I did have a way of coping with it, it was going to sound horrible, but actually not really. So I got more into comics, and I got big into Punisher comics because I like the idea that eventually the guilty will be punished. I think that's how I coped. Is I just imagined their fates and years down the road would suck. Well, yeah, that's one thing. When I teach, the last thing I want to be as a teacher is a bully. I've seen those and I despise them. Like I cannot express how much I hate people that are supposed to be educators, supposed to be teachers, and bully their students. There's no need for it. Unless I will say this though, if I see one kid bullying another, I will remind the initial kid there's always someone bigger than you. But yeah, that's definitely something that rubs me the wrong way. And my big thing is like there's no dumb questions. And that's not hyperbole. Like I might say it's impertinent. That's tedious. I will never call it dumb. I would actually be really nervous giving my younger self advice. And the reason I say that is the nerd in me is about to come out, but you don't mess with the space-time continuum. Let's say, for example, I feel like I could have had a better college experience, but if I had not gone to college where I went to college, how much does that affect my trajectory later in life? So at what point does it really having repercussions on down the road? So I think the thing I would tell my younger self would be take more personal risks. Don't be afraid of rejection. And just go for it in everything you do. And face it, if you want to get good at something, you're going to have to suck at first. Just get used to sucking. Okay, so in high school, my idea of my life path was I was going to go to college, I was going to move back to my hometown and become a high school history teacher. I didn't move back home. I am a teacher now. Still got a history degree, even though partway through I realized it wasn't really what I wanted to do. But yeah, I think a couple things happened. I realized that I don't have the disciplinarian mindset enough to be a high school teacher, especially the way it is today. I can't be. I got better things to do than micromanage people, and that's a lot of education today, sadly. And the other thing is, I wouldn't want to live in my hometown. Nothing against it, but I don't. There's more of the world. So eventually, do I think I'll be teaching history? Yeah. Right now, because of my job, I can take college classes for free, and I'm toying around with the idea of going back to school and getting a PhD in history. It's super intimidating because I've already tried getting one advanced degree in history, and I flunked out of the program, not because I couldn't do the work, but I was working 3 jobs and I just didn't have time to do the work. Let's see. Like when I think of my mom, it's the fact that she's always been there. She's always been there for me, always been willing to cheer me up, always, basically trying to put a positive spin on everything I do. And she's always had she was always active in my life. Like I was saying a couple days ago, when I was in 4th and 5th grade, my mom spearheaded a program at my elementary school called I'm Special. And it was basically people went in and talked to students, not one-on-one, but just tried to remind every person in those age groups that you have intrinsic value. So, I think about stuff like that, and it's and I'm a little embarrassed, I don't think of it more often. Things that are most important to her, well, let's see. Pretty sure my dad just always wondered if he's 3rd, 4th, 5th most important, which is a joke, but for her it's probably me, which sounds conceited, but it probably goes me. Then she's got a quasi godson that she's been a part of his life since he was born. Photography is big to her. Both my parents, rescue elderly dogs that no one else wants and raise them. So whatever elderly, broken down dog they're currently taking care of. Right now it's Lola, who's not elderly. She was rescued from a very loving family of 3 very small children that loved to tug her beard. Just that he's best work ethic of anyone I've ever met. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Just it didn't matter if it was work or if it was working out or if it's doing something athletic other than working out. I mean, he was playing, I think, Division II or Division III pro soccer when I was a little kid and running a business. So, just he has no quit in him. That I could do anything I wanted if I put my mind to it and worked at it. Not in the kind of the way that a lot of my generation was told, oh, you can do anything you want. He was very much, you can do anything you want if you're willing to put the work in. And he also made sure I understand that the putting the work in was more than just sweat. And that it, he'd occasionally point out friends of his and go, let me tell you why this friend of mine who's very good at what they do isn't a roadblock. And just explain to me, like, look, you may not like politicking at work, but if you want to get ahead, you may have to do it. So he was always he was very honest with me with what it would take to get ahead. If I could tell my family something now, and it's something I do tell them now, take a break. You've worked enough. You'll never be absentee business owners, but you can still be absent a little more. Enjoy life a little more. And then when you go on vacation, the purpose of going on vacation is not to do projects, it's to relax. That would be what I'd like to tell my family.
Seems like
I think that they do ascribe to that, and maybe I'm trying to impose my value system on them, but still, just stop. And if you go out of town for 4 days and you're spending 2 of it fixing stuff and improving stuff, but not sticking around to enjoy the things you've improved, what was the value in improving them? My first job, I worked for my parents at their motorcycle shop. I think I started when I was 14. Stopped working there when I started playing sports in high school. Then every summer in college, I would go back and I'd work there. Eventually, I was a pre-delivery inspection technician. So every time a motorcycle, ATV, personal watercraft gets sold, I make sure that it's basically ready for the customer to operate. Oil filter's been lubed. It's got gas. It's got proper tire pressure. If it's imported street bike, typically I have to fill the battery with acid. It's the most exciting thing I did, because they don't ship the batteries with the acid in there because it would be a big hazmat cost. So we actually get our own electrolyte and fill it. Favorite job I've had to date easily was working on mine. No, it's a toss up. I can have 2. It's a toss up between either working on The Catch. I got to spend 90 days in Costa Rica, or Mayan Blue, 40 days in Guatemala. So Mayan Blue, it was a reality show, but that reality show was the biggest moneymaker in ad revenue for the network we aired on that year. Mayan Blue ended up going on National Geographic Latin, I think it is. Didn't do Nat Geo North America, but it did Central and South America. Plus, I was getting to scuba dive on a pre-classic Mayan ruin in a lake that's in the caldera of an extinct volcano. It's kind of epic. But in all seriousness, both jobs, I felt great at the end. Not eating an American diet for 40 or 90 days is amazing. I lost tons of weight on both jobs. I got scuba certified on the Costa Rican job, put it to use on the Guatemalan job. So yeah, easily it's those 2. So the way that I went from prospective high school teacher to film industry to teaching film kind of work like this. So I go to grad school, and like everyone else who goes to film school, I'm like, I want to be a director. Yeah, I learned within about 5 weeks I had 0 interest in talking to people about their feelings and motivations. So what I did instead is I decided, well, hey, I like building stuff. I want to be a grip. And the film school I went to, they didn't like that. So they almost threw me out of the program. I gave them a metaphorical double middle finger salute. And with only 1 class left to get my degree, I moved to Los Angeles. Started working on literally the worst movies of all time, empirically rated as such. And then I kind of spent most of my career working in Los Angeles, then Louisiana. Then I eventually moved back to Georgia, continued working in a little bit in Connecticut, a little bit in North Carolina, did some smaller gigs in Georgia, plus my international work. And after a few years of that, I started suffering a lot of burnout. And it was 2 types of burnout. I was either burned out from I would work nonstop and I had no time to myself, or I would go through a huge dry spell in work. And I hated not knowing where my next paycheck was coming from. Even though I had money saved up, it still was just really uncomfortable. I'm like, I need a regular job. So I'd always wanted to be a teacher, applied for teaching jobs all over the United States, everywhere from Atlanta to Portland, Oregon. Got a job offer in Atlanta, started teaching in Atlanta. Very quickly I learned that being a college professor doesn't pay very well. So, I was teaching at two colleges as an adjunct and working 30 hours a week in a gun range to kind of make ends meet. And eventually I was getting to a point in my life where I was tired of teaching at a bad school. And I was like, I would rather work at a good gun range than a bad school. I entered a job search online for state jobs involving film. I got one hit, Georgia Film Academy. I applied. They took me. And I haven't looked back since. So now I am one of 10 people in the U.S. that teach film as a trade as opposed to an art.
Which is more appropriate.
Far more appropriate. And even though it's a pity no one else does it, I'm kind of glad. I kind of like saying I'm only one of 2 people that teach grip as a skill in this country. Being affable and likable has probably been my biggest asset in my career. I've always worked hard. I've always been good at what I've done. I've never been the best, but people, if given a choice, seem to like to work with me. And I had people say it to my face all the time I worked in the film industry, I could get someone better than you, but I wouldn't want to be around them for 14 hours a day. And that is the whole reason I had a career. I checked all the other boxes. Skill set, good enough, probably a little bit more. Work ethic, there. But the thing that was always in my favor was people liked working with me. Yeah. Important lesson that I've learned on a job is do the whole job. And that's something that gets reinforced to me everything I do. Is I always think that like, hey, I've done everything I need to do. And there's almost always something, not every day, obviously, I wouldn't be employed if this was the case, but whether it's paperwork we're replying to an email I've seen and I've forgotten to reply to, whether it's simply making sure that I've tied up a stinger properly, make sure I do the whole job the whole way. That's the biggest lesson I've learned. Yeah, I think a lot of times my response, I might not verbalize this, but I'd be like, good but not great. I mean, that's the whole thing is my preference would be that it's done great to perfect. But whether it's time, resources, whatever reason, it's like I aim for good. Like good is barely good enough. It needs to be great, but I'll take good. 100%. To be happy at work, you need something beyond a paycheck. And a fulfillment beyond that, whether it's intrinsic fulfillment, like I find education, or you have a job that offers you benefits in your life, let's say, that most other people wouldn't have, and basically it enriches your life somehow. So the advantage to teaching and teaching college is I have a lot of spare time. I don't teach every day. And for me, a lot of it's like just making sure I use that time wisely. Most people don't have that, but since I do, I want to try and do something with it. So yeah, I think that's the key is if you don't find fulfillment in your job, it needs to be making it so you can do something else in your life. I'm not sure how smart I really am. Like there's part of me that thinks I just bluff my way through life, and I've lied to so many other people so much about my intelligence, I've started to believe it myself, and I just am incredibly lucky. I would say that being smart and being intelligent is a far different skill from being able to recite things you've learned. So there's that whole thing of, are you smart or are you educated? I'm educated. I'd like to think I'm smart, but at the end of the day, a lot of times when someone says to me, wow, you're real smart, it's like, no, I just recited a fact that I've read 10 times. That's not smart. You're smart and you're intelligent when you can synthesize new ideas. And that's something I try and do, but don't always. I think one of the best decisions I ever made was to get an education. I find it way more fulfilling. Getting engaged to a woman I'm getting engaged to, I think is one of the smartest things I've ever done. It's so enjoyable. So the way that I try and stay present in my life is So I have to focus not on myself, but the people around me, and how if I just turn inward and just don't want to do anything with them, or don't want to interact with them, or don't think about ways I can try and make them happy, that's not being present. If I focus wholly on myself, then yeah, I'm making my life better, but it's really kind of self-centered. That's just not how I roll. I derive a good bit of my self-value from how I make others feel. So, I guess that's kind of how I try and stay present. And I think right now I'm doing pretty good about, I don't live in the past. Like there's definitely, sometimes I think back on things I'm unhappy about and I'm like, man, I really wish I could have changed it, but I'm trying to do that less and less. Living in the future, I am doing a little bit of that. I'm thinking about, okay, where can my job take me? I work for a very small agency and there is not a lot of opportunity for growth. So, I'm trying to figure out, can I manufacture growth? Because even though I love what I do, I don't know if I'm going to get bored with it, and I don't want to get bored with it. The future of humanity, if we keep going the path we're going, the way I see it, it's going to be, we're going to hit peak fresh water, peak agriculture, peak oil, peak a lot of things, and then it's going to be a mad scramble to try and engineer our way out of the problem or science our way out of the problem. It'll probably be too late. So B, I think we're looking at a mass extinction. We're already kind of on the way there. So, I think Einstein was once asked, what do you think, what weapons World War III will be fought with? And he said, I don't know, but I know World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. So I put it this way. I think if we keep going the way we're going, as interconnected as everything we do is, I'd say in 100 years, if we don't change, America won't really have easy access to coffee. We're not going to have easy access to a lot of things that make our lives easy because trade's going to break down. The cost of what today are simple things are going to go through the roof. So, I don't know, going back to the 1700s, maybe not fully, but in some aspects of life. And what do I think the future of the space program is? I think the future of the space program would be a lot better served by being more cooperative. When you have, if you have, let's say, the U.S., if you've got NASA, you've got JAXA, the Japanese Space Agency, you got the European Space Agency, they're all trying to do their own thing to a large extent. There's cooperation, but if they were wholly cooperative, we'd be putting people back on the moon. We'd be sending people to Mars. So I do think that the space programs of the world could be used to unite humanity, and they should be. People talk about entertainment and sports and religion being the opiate of the masses. I would rather it be something like space exploration. One thing about the Beyond, my thoughts on spirituality and religion, first of all, I would consider those two totally separate things. Spirituality is a personal approach to things larger than yourself, larger than the tactile world, whereas religion is an attempt to codify it and make it more to do with the tactile, corporeal, secular world. I definitely prefer spirituality to religion. As a guy who has a history degree, I can definitely tell you that's super. I very rarely have seen religion be the motivator of good things. So, but the flip side of that is, I'm not saying religion's inherently bad, just that, to have religion, you have to have people. And people are inherently horrible. I'm not sure nations can evolve. I take that back. I think nations can evolve. Humanity, it's going to be a very slow process for humanity to evolve. Part of the problem with that is to evolve, you first have to admit you have something wrong. It's like everything else. Like the first step is admitting you have a problem. And if you keep telling yourself, regardless of your system, it doesn't matter if you're the United States, if you're here and you're telling yourself that, um, locking kids in a cage is okay because they came here illegally, you know, but it supports your ideology, then let's take it around the world. If it's no different from saying, well, I ratted out my neighbor in Pyongyang because they had a South Korean radio, so them, their parents, their kids, their siblings are all going to be sent to Yodok, and they're all going to live and die there, and probably have more generations that live and die there. It's first admitting that you or the system you belong to, there's something wrong with it. So I think sometimes you have to really do something horrible to realize just how much you've messed up. So I'll give you an example, Germany. So a lot of people give me crap for this now, but I still contend a lot of the German population was not aware of the Holocaust. And when they became aware of it, their response to it, their abhorrence at what they've been a part of, they're one of the few countries in Western Europe that has a decentralized police service. And that's because they are very afraid of having that type of power be having it too much of a pyramid control structure. They don't want a lot of top-down control. They've seen where that goes wrong. Other countries that haven't experienced that or haven't admitted they've had a problem, they tend to repeat mistakes. To me, it's no surprise that Spain, a country that had the Inquisition and then gave us the war guerrilla warfare with their absolutely barbaric response to the French trying to, let's be honest, civilize them, ended up becoming the country with the longest running fascist dictatorship in history under Franco. But hey, they're Spain, they get a pass for some reason. So I think first you have to admit that you have a problem and then ask, am I willing to change? That's how you evolve. And the other thing is, it's easy to, people like to point to, let's say Finland, Norway, Iceland. They're homogenous. There's groupthink. And thankfully the groupthink is very positive. But when you go to other parts of the world where it's not as homogenous, you end up with people who are worried about their particular group not getting ahead. In Iceland, it's, I don't know their population. The statistic I heard is the last time Rammstein played in Reykjavik, if the same percentage of the U.S. population showed up for a Rammstein show in the U.S., it'd be 14 million people. That's how small their population is, to give you an idea. So to evolve, yeah, you have to figure out first you got a problem. 2, what are you willing to sacrifice to fix the problem? And 3, realize that not everyone else that's within your nation state confines is going to have the same opinion on the matter. And how do you deal with that? I highly doubt that we are alone in this universe. There are too many stars with too many planets for us to be the only intelligent life out there. I would be willing to bet that, there is absolutely other life out there. I'll go so far as to say that there might be life in the solar system. If you go to, let's say, Europa, there's believe there's volcanic vents, down their seafloor. We've got things that grew up in the dark, have never seen the sun, have a full life cycle, or biological. So, yeah, I sincerely doubt we're alone. The flip side of that is you look at the distances, the vast void between just us and the next neighboring solar system, and for us to ever meet our neighbors, we're going to have to find a way to, poke our thumb in Einstein's eye. My favorite ghost story is my most terrifying ghost story. I was in film school, and I showed up really early one day on a friend's thesis project to rig some stuff in the ceiling. So I get there, it's like 6:30 in the morning, go inside, I walk through the place, know I'm the only person there. I know there's no one upstairs. They're under construction. It's the weekend. They're not doing carpentry in the weekend. No one else has a car nearby, like they would park there to work there. I'm alone. I get up on the ladder. I've got my drill gun. I'm going to work. And I hear footsteps coming down the hallway towards me. Stop drilling. I'm like, okay, that's weird. So I go to start drilling again, and all of a sudden now they're running towards me, and I can tell they are on the same level I'm on. I just jumped off the ladder, ran out the front door, locked it behind me, drove from Savannah back to Tybee Island, got in bed, and pulled the covers over my head, and missed call by 5 hours. I think there's a good chance we've met other intelligent life. You know, there's just there's too many unexplained things, and there's too many, especially in the 20th century, unexplained flying objects. I mean, literal UFOs. I think we're definitely being watched. You know, what should be disclosed to us? As much as possible. You know, it's going to cause, will it cause panic? Yeah. Is it going to cause probably massive crises in faith for a large part of the planet? Meh, probably. But at the same time, if we are not alone, and that is such a fundamental existential question, yeah, I kind of think we need to know. You know, of course, I get, you know, right now, I told you I'm reading some Lovecraft, and a lot of Lovecraft's themes comes down to the idea of how irrelevant humanity is in the grand scheme of things. That would really suck to find that out. Find out it's like, oh, yeah, you might be the apex animal on your planet, but your planet is like a hick backwater of the universe. That would kind of suck to find out. It's like, oh, our brightest people are absolute morons everywhere else. Still, though, it's my right to know. If I had a non-substantial superpower, I would like to be able to not talk to animals. I just want them to be able to talk to me. I want to understand what they're trying to say. You know, I feel like just that one-way street of communication is not substantial. If it goes two ways, then it's like it's like I can start telling animals like, hey, go mug this person. Because you see the pictures online of like cats that, like, there's a cat that goes out and steals like food off of people's barbecues and brings it back to its owner. Like, I don't need that type of power. All right. I just want to know that when my cat looks at me and is like, looking at me like, you're really pissing me off right now. I need to know why. So I can probably keep doing it. Hi guys, I found a genie and I've got 3 wishes. So what am I going to do with these 3 wishes? This is a question I should have thought of in advance. I like to think of irrational things that might happen to me. So first wish, this is going to sound super materialistic, but this is going to fulfill a lot of things. I just want $1 billion tax-free. And if you're wondering what I would do with $1 billion tax-free, well, let's see, there's a 183-foot research vessel called the Aleutian that's for sale that I want. You can go and Google it online and see why I'm willing to pay $20 million, which is a very small part of $1 billion. I want an island that I can turn into a feral and abandoned cat sanctuary. You know, and there's other things I want to do. I want to make the world a better place, and I need capital to do that. My second wish would be for a more substantial superpower. So remember, I will always game the system. So honestly, if I had the ability to not feel pain, I feel like the ability to not feel pain would physical pain, you know, would make me a lot more willing to be outgoing. There would be more things to be willing to try. It's like, well, it might kill me, but I'm not going to feel it. You know, it's like that thing, like, you know, when you're taking off in an airplane, like once you get to that point in the climb, like, well, I'm not going to feel it from here. I know everyone relaxes. No one talks about it. Everyone's like, well, if we fall from here, I'm just a splat. Who cares? But it's when you first take off, like you're just off the ground. It's like, yeah, I'm going to crash. I'm going to burn. This is going to suck. So third wish, off the top of my head, I don't really know. I kind of feel like most things And the reason I say I don't know, it's like, what am I going to say? Wish I'm going to live forever, so I outlive everyone I care about, and then I keep doing it. I've seen Highlander. It's not cool. Do I want to wish that someone I love lives forever? Now I've just put them in a Highlander situation. Not cool. I don't know. I'll be perfectly honest.
Save the last wish.
I am saving my last wish for like when I need it. So if I've only got 3 days left, hopefully at this point, everything on Earth that I want to go and experience, I've done. If I haven't, it's kind of a mad idea to be like, oh, hey, I've never been to Paris. Let me go try and pigeonhole that in. Bad idea. I think if it's my last 3 days on Earth, I'm going to spend most of it with the people I care about the most, eating all the things I'm never going to get to eat again. I know that sounds gluttonous, and I don't care. So it's
What?
so okay. I mentioned Giant's Big Burger before, so I would love to go have a reunion with my high school friends at Giant's Big Burger. I would love to do that. I would like to go have Zunzi's one last time down in Savannah. I would like to have, hopefully Jess is coming with me. So if she's coming with me, then I will never be hurting for shrimp scampi, chicken parm, cheek steak peppers, all the amazing things she makes. Okay, other places and other things. So my parents, I would want to go hang with my parents at their favorite local Mexican place back in Clarksville. Breakfast-wise, it's not breakfast for me. If I haven't, I'm going to do at least one breakfast. I'll cook myself for myself. I'm going to have definitely a breakfast one morning at Waffle House, because how could I not? If there's not Waffle House, it's really outside the Southeast, and I promise you they're not putting one on Mars anytime soon. And, probably Flying Biscuit. That'd be my other breakfast. And if I have to if I'm just gonna snack, if I'm really just gonna glutton myself out, if I'm going to make, you can figure it out, but for every extra kilogram you launch into just low Earth orbit, it costs thousands of dollars. I'm gonna go eat so much before this flight, I'm gonna cost the American taxpayer probably 10 grand, all right? That's my goal, is extra $10,000 in fuel got burned. So probably a little Chick-fil-A here and there. If I'm feeling sad, I'm going to go really treat myself like crap and go have a McDouble from McDonald's. These are the things I'm going to do. For me to go to Mars is going to take more than someone saying to me in a bad accent, get your ass to Mars. It is going to take the ability to at least take, my soon-to-be wife with me. That's a big part of it. Hell, I would have a hard time leaving my cats. Part of it's not just the fact that I'd be saying goodbye to them, but they would know I abandoned them. I'm not okay with that. So my cats are coming. So we're going to find out what happens when you put 3 chonky female cats on Mars. That is going to be a scientific experiment funded by the American taxpayer. Let's see. So also, it can't be permanent. I need to know that at least there will be efforts made to return the original colonists back to Earth. It's a long haul. I'll put it this way. I'd be willing, whatever the combined to and from travel would be, I'd be willing to spend 1.5 times that amount of time on the Martian surface. Minimum, I would stay a minimum of 10 years. If I'm going to be given the honor of being one of the first people to go and try and colonize and settle a planet, I do realize there's going to have to be some sacrifice. And I don't mind going and doing it and putting in the work and putting in the time. We got to go back to terms real quickly, because some of my terms have to do with what my job would be. So part of my terms is I need a pulse rifle. Okay? And I do realize they don't exist. But
That we know of.
they don't exist yet. However, they did, pulse rifle is a Tommy gun with a Remington 870 under the barrel. That's all it is, with some body work. So what I really need is a 10 millimeter Thompson, which they made a handful of, and I need an 870 mounted underneath, and I need the body kit to not be crappy ABS plastic. I need to be substantial. And I need some frag 12 rounds, which are explosive 12 gauge rounds. So it really is an underbarrel grenade launcher. So my job is to provide wildlife control. No, I really think, it depends on how big the colony would be. If you need to send an educator, I would be more than happy to be like, all right, cool, we're going to go out there. People are going to be raising families. If it's that big of a colonization effort, I'll be a part of that original cadre of educators. If it's manual labor, I will do that. If it's materials handling, I will do material handling on another planet. If it's, what if it's media? What if you need someone to go that can basically do, that can write, that can direct, shoot, edit, all that. And I basically am responsible for making sure that the feedback to Earth is more than a webcam like we have on the ISS. I would do something like that. I'm still getting my damn pulse rifle. And if it's not a pulse rifle, just because I had this debate with some other friends of mine, we asked ourselves, if you're going into space and you can only take one rifle, one pistol, one shotgun, what do you take? So it's quite simple. Rifle, honey badger, 300 blackout, very lightweight. So again, you have a lower launch cost. So we'll take that. Shotgun, Mossberg 590A1. I take that over the 870. 870, you have to rivet the extractor in and out. It unbolts in the 590. It's the only difference. It's easier to maintain with, again, not wanting to bring a big press into space. Pistol, Glock 20. Again, 10 millimeter. If 10 millimeter doesn't kill it, you might just want to shoot yourself because you're about to give birth to some chest babies. Yeah, so the way I look at it, if I can't kill it with that, and again,
How much is the Glock 20?
Glock 20, it's like $550. It's the same frame size as a 21. You could actually convert a 20 to 21 or 21 to 20 just by doing a barrel swap. If you wanted to like really be fancy and be like a big space nerd, you could do 9x25 Dillon, which is a 10 millimeter brass neck down to 9 millimeters. So now you've got a 9 mil projectile leaving the barrel at, you could have 147 grain 9 mil screaming out at like 1600 FPS. Again, but there's problems with that in space. You have to reload your ammo. So, bottleneck cartridges fail eventually after so many reloading cycles, whereas straight walls, not so much. So maybe I need to think about the rifle being straight wall. Maybe it's something like 4570, something kind of old school. Maybe I need to class it up a bit and get like a Holland & Holland double rifle and like 577 Tyrannosaurus. God, that'd rip a spacesuit in half.
Well, the funny thing is,
yeah, you could. So what you're saying is, I'm carrying a Barrett. They do make shorty Barretts. So if they could make a shorty Barrett that, actually, you know what? I'll just take a Lynx GM6. It's a Hungarian-made bullpup semi-auto 50 caliber rifle. I'll take a Lynx GM6. Because with that, that's what you take to a boss fight in a sci-fi game. I'll take it. The world needs, be prepared for bad grammar. The world needs more of less competition. And it doesn't matter in what area you put that, but I think we've gotten to a point where we're competing over so many things, both useful and needed, like arable land, water, energy, things that are useless, national pride, religion, all that stuff. We just need a little less competition. I'm not arguing for isolationism. I'm not trying to run for office in 1914 America. I'm not. But I don't know if there was an election year. Maybe it was 1912. Doesn't matter. But that's what I think we need more of. Is we need more internal focus. And I feel like if there was more kind of internal focus on things that were useful, and being more mindful at not just a personal but also at a state level, the world will be a better place. And of course, there's going to be some flip sides of that. When you start getting rid of, waste, a lot of government employees are out of jobs. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Opportunity. I am most thankful for all the opportunities I've had in my life. There are a lot of things that I'm not going to lie, that have come my way that have been good, that I did absolutely nothing to earn them or deserve them. And I will admit to that. And I'm grateful for those opportunities. In all sincerity, if there was one thing I could say to the world right now, and I know it would fall on deaf ears. That's a sad thing. That's the other thing, is if I could get on my soapbox, I know that it's I'm screaming at the storm, but it's just chill the F out. Just like whatever you're doing, just take it down a notch. And I hate to sound like a hippie stoner, but I think that a lot of the problems we have is well, I take that back. You know what? I'm gonna rephrase that answer. If there's one thing I would say to the world, again, my soapbox, it would be, and it's been said before, and I've heard that the ability to quote is a poor substitute for wit. Well, I'll go there anyway. Evil triumphs when good men do nothing. There's no reason for a lot of the really terrible things in this world to happen with the amount of power that first world nations have. You know, I think back to '94 and the Rwandan genocide, and there's a lot of people don't realize this. Private military contracting was kind of in its infancy then, and it was still largely kind of a South African and British-based industry. A lot of those firms like Sandline, and I don't think Executive Outcomes was still around back then, but their successor company went to the UN and was like, look, we'll go and stop it. We'll make it stop. Just pay us what it'll cost to stop it. And the UN was like, oh, no, we can't have mercenaries going in and doing that. And instead, you had 600,000 people dead in 90 days, all by machete. That's a shitty way to go. All because it was just too dirty to use mercenaries. So there was a country in, I believe it was West Africa, up until '98, last country on earth that had legalized slavery. Country's poor as hell. You're telling me that there's no reason that even, let's not even say the US, let's not even pick a heavyweight. You're telling me that the Dutch, okay, the Dutch couldn't have rolled in there with whatever their military is and gone, hey, we're about to join the 21st century. Knock it off. This ends today. You know, that's the thing I would say. You find, and then you find it at you find it not just, let's say, at state level. You find it at like a lower level. Like there's so much human trafficking. You know, where I live in Atlanta, like it is like I think the kidnap capital of the United States. And you know, it's like that's just why are we, and I, again, not trying to sound like a hippie, why are we still trying to prosecute a war on drugs, you know, that is failing, when there are other people whose lives are more worth saving? And I'm not trying to trivialize, you know, someone who has a disease and is addicted to drugs, but the person who got kidnapped and forced into prostitution, sorry, they're a little more of a victim. I'm going to go ahead and rank them and say that person's a little more of a victim, and there should be more assets allocated to saving them. So yeah, that's my message to the world. Go find somebody doing evil and kick them in the teeth. To summarize my whole soapbox stance, my platform, soapbox is a platform. If you see something, don't just say something, do something. When you find evil, because evil is real, you destroy it. Oh, compassion? Compassion to me means being able to try and conceptualize what another person's going through. So being able to not just be like, oh, they're sad, they lost someone, that sucks, but to actually kind of like try and somewhat experience it yourself and just really get a grasp on it, just dwell on it for a little bit. And then to me, compassion is what can you do to make their life a little better? And that's one of the things that I try and do as an educator. I can't really get into specifics, but I've definitely in the past have had students that have gone through things, and if the whole concept of compassion for me is, I'm the one teacher who's like, well, the syllabus says, if you miss X amount of classes, you automatically lose a letter grade. And I'm like, I'm just going to ignore that. You've got way bigger things going on in your life right now than me for however many minutes a week. Whatever little thing I can do, I'll just do it. I would say that the average person, if they wanted to show a little more compassion, the first step is not going to be doing things. I'm not going to say, oh, go out and volunteer to be a mentor, or, try and look for it first. You have to do that first step of put yourself in someone else's shoes. Truly try and really think about what they're going through, because if you do that, if you can get a little taste of their misery, if you can make it just even though it's not real for you, you can make it the slightest bit real for you, you'll find yourself motivated to do something. The first step is don't change the channel. Don't look away. Don't zone out. Do something.
Be present.
Be present. Thank you. The way I've dealt with stress in the past has been, I kind of end up in a broken OODA loop: observe, orientate, decide, act. I end up in a state of hyper awareness where I'm trying to figure things out and I can't. So I've gotten better about not locking up and freezing up in stressful situations. The other problem I have with stress is I tend to just, I'll just bury it. I'll just deal with it later. That's not exactly been the most helpful thing. So I've gotten better about talking to people about, like, hey, I'm really stressed out about this. And then, when people start to tell me, like, hey, it's not that bad, realizing that, they're sincerely pointing out, hey, you have over-exaggerated this in your own head, not just telling me that because they're trying to get me to chill out. So I've done two things. I've talked about it now, and now I'm willing to listen about it. So that's kind of the way I've dealt with stress. So the OODA loop, and I forgot who created it, it's used in management a lot. It's observe, orientate, decide, act. So observe, you observe some new piece of information. Secondly, you orientate yourself to that information. Does it affect me? So, and how does it affect me? How do I make it not affect me? Then you decide, which is you choose a course of action, and then you act on it. And the reason why decide and act are two different things is a lot of people will freak out and they'll observe, orientate, decide, but they won't act because some little thing changes. Observe, orientate, decide. It's like if a person sees a car crash about to happen, there might be a car crash, and they don't hit the brakes, they don't steer away from it, they don't know what to do. It's because they observe the car is this far away. They orientate, that's coming at me, they decide, I need to hit the brakes. Now it's closer, oh my God, it's closer. It's about to hit me. I need to really hit the brakes or swerve. And basically people get stuck in a feedback loop. It's taught in military leadership courses that one of the best ways to defeat your enemy is get inside their OODA loop and break their ability to make decisions. If you can make it where someone can't make decisions, they can't defend themselves, you're going to roll right over them. So it's a concept that I'm finding in more and more places in the world. And, it's one of those things you don't consciously think about it: observe, orientate, decide, act, The thing I would love to see change in film culture, the obsession and the measuring stick of, hey, how many hours can you work without dropping? It's just not healthy. It's not smart. It's not efficient. And I feel like that part of the culture leads to some other things I really despise in the industry. Like one of the reasons my favorite memories are not from big shows is because or even feature films, I don't like all the layers of management. I don't like that if I do something wrong, I'm going to hear about it from all these people. I don't need that. But I would say that the thing I'd love to see change in the culture is a desire to be like, hey, you know what? let's figure out how we can be efficient and do our job in 8 hours. That's what I want to see. If we can figure out ways to do all the fantastic visual effects that we do, and even like hard effects, if we can find ways to do, like even let's say as a grip. A few years ago, there was a grip who got an Academy Award in the science division for creating like a giant inflatable green screen. No need to build a wall of Connexes. Just set this thing up, put an industrial fan behind it, blow it up, shoot it. Why haven't we applied that same thing to management? Why are we still obsessed with the idea of like, well, we're going to be there for 12 hours. And when we say 12, we really mean 14. That's not sustainable. It's not smart. Here's the thing. Clint Eastwood can do it. Perfect filming scenario is where I'm the least competent person there. Seriously, if I'm the least competent person there and everyone is better at their job than I am at my job, it's going to probably be a pretty good day.